Hello everyone, I'm Michelle B. Cultura, TCC1A student. I'm here to present what I've learned in Educ 3 Principles of Teaching. So, what is teaching? Teaching is a process of interacting. It stands for pedagogy, training, and nurturing. It's the process of engaging students in activities that will enable them to acquire the knowledge, skills, as well as worthwhile values and attitudes. An aggregate of organized strategies and activities aimed at inducing learning, and overall cluster of activities associated with a teacher and including explaining, questioning, demonstrating, and motivating. A system of activities whereby all teachers' instructional tasks enable the students to learn is both science and art. It is based on psychological research that identifies cause and effect relationship between the teaching and the learning. And art as it shows how those relationships are implemented successful and artistic teaching. It is the greatest of the arts because the medium is the human mind and the spirit. So teaching, it involves the values, experiences, insights, imaginations, and appreciations, the stuff that cannot be easily observed and measured. It involves the interplay among such factors as a teacher, the learner, the teaching, content, and strategies. So a teacher is a key factor in any teaching learning process. So a teacher can construct well-designed plan to achieve objectives of the lessons. He or she prepares learning environment and selects appropriate content strategies and learning activities and adjust content activities, strategies, learning and environment to the learners. So the learner is an embodied spirit. He is a union of sentience, body, and a rational soul. Most important element of teaching. So, a learner is a natural characteristics of learner are age, maturity, grade level, health, abilities, families, background, experiences, and motivation, and he or she culture including values, attitudes, and traditions which influence the teaching learning process to a very large extent. So let's proceed to the context of teaching strategies. The choice of content or subject matter to be taught to achieve desired objectives of the lesson. The content or teaching strategies is the selection of appropriate instructional materials and technology to facilitate learning, and the use of appropriate effective methods and strategies of teaching to arrive at the desired outcomes, and the ability to learn is the most significant activity of a man. So there are principles of learning. First, learning is an experience which occurs inside the learner and is activated by the learner. The process of learning is primarily controlled by the learner and not by the teacher. People learn what they want to learn. They see what they want to see and hear what they want to hear. Very little learning takes place without personal involvement and meaning on the part of the learner. It is wise to engage learners in an activity that is connected to their life experiences. Next is learning is the discovery of a personal meaning and relevance of ideas. So students more readily internalize and implement concepts and ideas which are relevant to their needs and problems. It is necessary that the teacher relates lesson to the needs and problems of the learners. Next, number 3 is learning behavioral change is a consequence of experience. People become responsible when they have readily assumed responsibility, and they become independent when they have experienced independent behavior. So they become able when they experience success, they begin to feel important when they are important to somebody. They feel liked when somebody likes them. If experience is the best teacher, the teacher should make use of experiential learning strategy. Experiential learning makes use of direct as well as vigorous experiences. Next is learning is a cooperative and collaborative. Cooperation fosters learning. Two heads are better than one. Interactive should make use of cooperative and interactive process appears to scratch and kick people's curiosity, potential, and creativity. Teachers should make use of cooperative and collaborative approaches because this will teach students to live and learn interdependently. Number 5 is learning is an evolutionary. Behavioral changes require time and patience. Change takes time. Then number 6 is learning is sometimes a painful process because behavioral change often calls for giving up the old and comfortable ways of believing, thinking, and valuing. It is necessary for the teachers to make students realize that learning is a difficult task which is accompanied by ample of sacrifices, inconveniences, and discomfort. Next is one of the richest resources for learning is the learner himself. Each of the student is a reservoir of experiences, ideas, feelings, and attitudes which comprise a rich vein of material for problem solving and learning. As a teacher, you must midwife the birth of ideas among learners. Next, the process of learning is emotional as well as intellectual. Learning is maximized when the feelings and thoughts of the learners are working harmoniously. This is due to fact that man is the union of body and soul. Man is the feeling being and thinking of being. Next, the process of problem solving and learning are highly unique and individual. Each of the learner has his own unique styles of learning and solving problems. Some personal styles of learning and problem solving are highly effective. Others are not as effective and still others are ineffective. Give considerations to multiple intelligence and learning styles of the learners to properly address their needs of learning. So there are principles underlying effective instruction. Number 1 is principle of context. In principle of context, learning depends largely on the setting, particularly including the use of material in which the process goes on with the skills of application. Like textbook, only textbook with supplementary materials and non-academic and current material such as newspaper, clippings, articles, and magazines. Then multi-sensory aids, demonstration and demonstration by experts, field experiences, personal and social community understanding. The next principle of underlying effective instruction is principle of focus. Instruction must be organized about the focus or direction following these skills application and where focus is established by a page assignment or in textbook. Next is a personal socialization. Instruction depends upon the social setting in which it is done with the skills of application and where social patterns are characterized by. Number 4 is principle of individualization. Instruction must progress in terms of the learner's own purposes, aptitudes, abilities, and experimental procedures following the skills of application and where individualized may be done through. Number 5 is principle sequence. Instruction depends on effective ordering of a series of learning tasks to move from. Number 6 is principle of evaluation. In principle of evaluation, learning is heightened by a valid and discriminating appraisal of all its aspects following these scales of application. Next, the management of instruction. Instruction may be well managed using any of these classifications of students. The homogeneous learners are classified group in terms of similar elements such as age, abilities, interest, physical characteristics, and the heterogeneous, no definite basis for clustering or putting learners together. Could be on random sampling, alphabetized family names, time of enrollment, and etc. The letter C is non-graded, no fixed grade level assignment of children. They come to a center of learning by small groups of individuals depending on their pacing of accomplishment of tasks. Teaching model a term used by Bruce Joyce to describe an overall approach or plan for instruction attributes of a teaching model. Number two in management of instruction is difference among the terms of techniques, method, strategy, approach, and principles. Number three is technique, the personal art and style of the teacher in carrying out the procedures of teaching. Number four is strategy, an overall general design on how the lesson will be executed and delivered. A set of decision of what learning activities of achieve an objective can be substituted in methodology. Number five is purposes of methods. Make learning in purposes of methods make learning more efficient, enable learner to think logically, facilitate smooth transition from one activity to another, serve as guide in preparing all the needed materials. Next is the principles of selecting methods. There are 12 principles in selecting methods. Number one is must be based on sound principles, law, and theories of learning. Must be assessed the learners to define their purpose and motives. 3. Must originate from the learner's past experiences. 4. Must suit individual differences, needs, interests, and developmental maturity. Next, must bring the learners to the world of diverse learning experiences. 6. Must stimulate the learners to think critically, analytically, and creatively. Must be changing, must be flexible, must be consistent with the requirements of objectives, must be appropriate with the content, must be two-way to vary the students' participation, must considered to be undertaken to ensure gainful learning. So there are factors to consider in choosing method. Number one, learner's ability. In learner's ability, first and foremost, consideration based on the nature, characteristics, age, maturity, and abilities. Then number two is teacher's ability. Must be personally and professionally qualified to teach. Number three is objective. Expected outcome from the lesson in terms of knowledge or skills and attitude. Number four is subject matter. The content to be taken so that the desired outcome will be achieved. Then number five, prerequisite learning. Students' experiences that can help facilitate acquisition of new knowledge, skills, and attitude. Then number six is classroom setup. Must be inviting to students and conducive to learning. Conducive to learning. Number seven is school facilities or equipments and technologies. The ability of the needed equipments, technologies, tools for learning found in the right places. Time allotment. Number 8, time allotment. A specified target frame for choosing activities properly distributed for the entire period. Number 9 is safety precautions. Students should feel that they are safe and out of danger in the school. Number 10 is school climate. Learners should feel the warmth of the teachers and classmates. So, use of teaching strategies, different folks, different strokes, selections and use of teaching strategies. There are also factors to consider in the choice of teaching method. Number 1, instructional objective, nature of the subject matter, the learners, the teacher, and the school policies. So, there are different approaches and methods of teachers. Method, 1,000 teachers, 1,000 methods, a comprehension between the direct and indirect approaches. So, indirect approach or indirect approach. Make use of expository strategies aimed at mastery of knowledge and skills. Teacher-oriented, direct transmission of information for teacher. Teacher-controlled, highly structured, content-oriented. Learner is passive, receives ready information. It should be make use of exploratory strategies aimed to generating knowledge for experience, and learner-centered, student shares for information with teacher supervision, and learner-controlled, flexibility, organized, experience-oriented, learner is active in search of information. So, in deductive method it starts with generalization principle or rule that is then applied to specific cases. In deductive method starts the features. The features allows to clear understanding of generalization, rules, formulas. Number 2 allows further development of generalization, rules, formulas, when to use. To test a rule, answer questions of problems with reference to certain rules or principles to further develop generalization. So, in direct instruction or showing method, a teacher-centered strategy that use teacher explanation and modeling combined with student practice and feedback to teach concept and skills. It designed to teach skills, concept, principles, and rules with emphasis on active teaching and high levels of student involvement features. So, in lecture discussion method, designed to help learner link new with prior learning and relate the different parts of new learning to each other. Designed to overcome the most important weakness of the lecture method by strongly emphasizing learner involvement in the learning process. Next, the indirect guided exploratory experimental strategies. The indirect approach is a student-centered approach or less explicit teaching method. It involves the building of independent learning and developing self-concept. It develops students to become self-directed learners, critical thinkers, and problem solvers. So, inquiry teaching is a process of answering questions and solving problems based on facts and observation. So, in inquiry of teaching interviews may be used in all subjects. Interviews are used on gathering first-hand information from individuals who have expertise in topic under the studies. So, in inductive method, a procedure through which one arrives at a fact of principle, rule, or generalization from some specific cases or examples. Next is laboratory method or research method. Deal with the first-hand experiences regarding materials of fact obtaining from the investigation of experiments. Next is